Hey fermenters, Austin Durant here, and today I'm going to show you how to get the most out of a pumpkin. We're going to make roasted pumpkin, pumpkin seeds, as well as pumpkin kimchi. The first thing I want to do is cut off just a little bit with the slicer to create a base. Oh, look at that beautiful flesh. Now what I can do is lay it up on its side and then make a slice this way. Oh, that's beautiful. Next thing I want to do is remove the seeds. You can use a spoon or your hands. I actually like to use this grapefruit spoon. It's got serrated edges. Kind of helps me get all of that extra stuff out that sticks to the sides of the flesh. All right, so now we've got the seeds. I put them into a separate bowl. We've got our pumpkin flesh more or less cleaned up. Now it's time to slice up the pumpkin. So I'm just gonna slice some here. And I think we'll probably need to do some peeling. Got our pumpkin pieces peeled. Next step is to slice them. And of course you could use a knife, but if you have one of these handy mandolins, it also makes quick work of it. So I'm just going to take a slice, start to run it across the slicer. I'm going to inspect the pieces. They're about, quarter inch thick or so. And because these pumpkin pieces are pretty slippery, I'm going to employ this finger guard. So I'm just going to sort of impale the piece and then resume sliding it across. Notice how my fingers are nowhere near the blade. All right, I've mixed a 5% brine solution. I'm just going to take a plate, just turn it upside down, let those babies soak for just an hour or two to soften them up and to give them a little bit of salt. So I've got my pumpkin slices that I've brined for about 2 hours, along with 1 head of Napa cabbage, and I just cut up some scallions, and I just now drained the brine. These were sitting in the brine for about 2 hours. This is about a 5% brine, which is 3 tablespoons of salt per quart of water. The next little trick I like to employ is what I call make-ahead paste. And this is kimchi paste that's used for all sorts of different varieties, whether it's pumpkin or cabbage or radish. And I just make a big batch of this ahead of time and then store it in an airtight container in the refrigerator. And this is ginger, garlic, scallions, fish sauce, tamari, and Korean red pepper powder. All right, so I'm going to wear a glove because this is pretty spicy paste. I don't want to burn my hands. So I'm going to take a handful of the vegetables that have been drained, put them into the jar, and I'm going to take a nice smear of the paste and really just start to mix everything together. You want to make sure you coat every last piece. You're free to leave out the fish sauce if you like the vegan variation. This particular kind is vegan. You can find the recipe for make-ahead paste at fermenters.club, the blog. All right, got this nice and flat. I'm going to go ahead and take, just as an extra precaution, some of the outer cabbage leaves that were a little too tough to blend into the kimchi and just kind of use them as a little protective barrier. So in case it does collect mold, I can just pull out these leaves and toss them in the compost pile, and it's fine under the brine, as we say. So now we're ready to pack our kimchi. First I'm going to wipe out the inside of the jar. Again, we don't want to let any critters like molds and stuff give them anywhere to grab hold. Just clean it up. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a jar that fits into the diameter of the lid here, and I'm going to actually use that reserved brine. It's going to fill the jar, really just creating a weight. And then I happen to have this handy silicone flexible lid that I'm going to employ. This is completely optional, especially since we have the cabbage leaves there. And I'm going to take the jar partially filled with brine, add it to the top, and what this is going to do is create pressure and allow the brine to continue to express. Then I'm going to take a tea towel here, wrap the whole thing up, make sure it covers the neck, and then I just took a twist tie actually from the very cabbage that we chopped up, and I'm going to use that to secure it, and this will keep bugs out. Bugs do like fermenting foods too. All right, so now we're ready to go. I'm going to set this in a cool place in my kitchen or in my garage, depending on if you have kimchi tolerant roommates. They may want you to do this out in the garage. 5 days or so, I'll take a look, make sure there's bubbling. I'll taste it if I like the flavor. Then I'll remove everything, put a lid on it, move it to the fridge. Find this recipe and many more on our blog at fermenters.club. So I roasted the other pieces of pumpkin that we didn't use for our kimchi. 450 degree oven, a little bit of oil on the flesh. Turned them over, parchment paper. About 45 minutes later, you can see they're nice and soft. So I'm letting the pieces cool now. And then I will scoop them out of the skin and portion them out into zip top bags and then put them in the freezer. So here's an example of one I did earlier. It's nice, easy to measure for whatever recipes, pie, soups, etc. Another thing you can do is, with the seeds and the pulp that you removed, you can brine those babies too. I'll probably let these sit overnight, and then I'll remove the rest of the membrane from the seeds, and then roast those up, and I'll already have pre-salted roasted pumpkin seeds. After soaking these overnight, I put them in a 200 degree oven for about 2 or 3 hours on some parchment paper. And they're nice and crunchy and salty and delish. I'm just gonna put them into an airtight jar. You can use these in salads, to top pumpkin soup, or whatever else your heart desires.